As I mentioned, that whole attack on Bischoff at the Great American Bash '96. In the arena at that time, like again, I can tell you in my section, a lot of people thought that was real. A lot of people thought Hall and Nash actually went and attacked Eric Bischoff. And the wrestlers played it off, even on the broadcast. Even though when you go back and look at the broadcast, you can tell that Bischoff didn't fall that far. But at that point in time, we just mocked Chris Jericho for taking a dive, falling through a similar kind of a crash pad, from far higher than what Bischoff took. And because now we all know, it's like, it's like he fell on the bed. But back then in '96, when Bischoff took a far less of a fall on the same kind of a crash pad, everybody was like, "Oh my God," So it's interesting to see how in 25 years wrestling has changed like that. But I always say to people who get on this whole casual fan, hardcore fan thing, and that's the reason you guys are probably kind of part of the reason why we can't get new people into it. It's the bickering among the community, and instead of being excited about these things that happen, we're just fighting about it. So the casual fans and people from the outside who come in and look at our world, as opposed to back in 95, 96, 97, where they'd see a bunch of people going, "Oh my God, I can't believe Lex Luger did this. Oh my God, Hall and Nash did. Oh my God, they said this, they said that." It's now, those guys are just nothing. WWE is so lame. AEW is just a bunch of marks and all this stuff. If you're somebody from the outside looking in, would you want to be part of this community? If when you saw something on a wrestling show, whether or not you watched AEW Dynamite or WWE, and you saw something going on, you're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" You go online to look it up, and all you see is a bunch of people calling each other names and crapping on each other. That didn't happen back then. And do you think that you would want to be part of that community? Probably not. A lot of us who are in it don't want to be part of it. So there you go. The other significant thing that happened this week as an anniversary is that it was only a few years ago, I think it was 5 years ago, that Will Ospreay and Ricochet had their Best of the Super Juniors match, which I recently covered on my Patreon for its exclusive watch-along. That wonderful match that had that gift that wound up on ESPN and had people around wrestling talking about what is wrestling. Almost got me into a fight with Big Van Vader. who I should explain that one because it's been a while. I was involved in the Twitter flame war with all that stuff, and Vader had said something about it, and I went and mentioned and then linked to a video of Vader doing several moonsaults, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you're talking about flips? Isn't that one of the things that got you over? Was that you were the first super heavyweight your size that could do a moonsault? You weren't plodding around like King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant and Big John Studd and the One Man Gang. And, Bam Bam Bigelow was somewhat athletic, but you took it to the next level by doing freaking moonsaults. And a lot of people, I remember, because I was around at the time, and I remember a lot of people like, "Oh my God, this guy this 400-pound dude can do a moonsault." That was part of the attraction of seeing the Big Van Vader. And he had been, unfortunately, and rest in peace, Vader, Leon White, he had been so mentally screwed at that point in time about his career. And I remember he tweeted back, like, "Nobody cared." And I was like, I know whose words those are. It's part of another reason why I don't like certain people in WWE. They had told him a lot of that stuff. And, you've seen the documentaries where other people have talked about it, like how certain management in WWE, WWF at the time, got on his case about a lot of stuff. And Vader just dismissed, this amazing thing that he did as a super heavyweight because of that. Now, I think maybe part of that was kayfabe. He was trying to work me, and I was working him a little bit because I was like, "Well, I'm in Baltimore. I'll be at the next show that comes through the Baltimore Arena. I'll be waiting outside, bro. You want to come fight?" I don't care. You might beat me up. You might not because you're kind of old, but, I hit hard. You hit hard. Let's see what's up. But it was like tongue-in-cheek stuff. I didn't expect us to actually get in a fight. But then it led to something a lot greater because Ospreay actually got a match with Vader and Rev Pro, which was probably the coolest thing. Ospreay was such a genius at that, too, the way he worked that out, the way him and Vader worked that out. that match in Rev Pro between the two of them. It was a good shot. It's just unfortunate that the wrestling world didn't have as many eyeballs from the mainstream wrestling fans at that time on the indie promotions, but it was just because it was just beginning to do that at that time. So yeah, but that's one of the that I look back on it now. That was one of the fun moments in that era of wrestling when there was all this speculation and people talking about Ricochet and people talking about Will Ospreay. And I saw Ricochet and Ospreay sharing a tweet today about it. And that Ospreay says he can't do 66% of the moves that he did back then. And then Ricochet's like, well, I'm like 5 years older than you. I can still do the same moves. So it's kind of funny. Ricochet's far less beat up than Ospreay is, though, because Ricochet hasn't fallen on his neck quite as much. Speaking of which, cast once a week and midweek about wrestling, entertainment, and other news topics. You can subscribe to my mailing list, which you'll get notifications when new podcasts are out, as well as other exclusives on my Patreon page by going to subscribepage.com/Rasslin Rantin with 3 S's, RASSSLINRANTIN. And once again, podcast every week. We talk about a lot of different subjects, the week in wrestling, what's going on, some perspective and interesting notes and tidbits from a fan who's been around since 1985. So if you enjoy that kind of talk on your podcast or your Podbean or your iPad or iTunes or whatever that you got, load it up right now. The Rantin Review podcast. Available on Podbean, Apple, and everywhere else you can get podcasts. Hopefully to hear from you guys soon. Have a good day.